Hello, and welcome to SoE TV, that's School of Education TV. I'm Dawn Crim, your host, the Associate Dean for External Relations. And today I am very excited to be speaking to my guest, Distinguished Alumni Award winner, Dean Katy Heyning from UW-Whitewater. Welcome, Katy.
Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you're here. So Katy received her Ph.D. in 1996 from the Department of Curriculum and Instruction, and she has really been on an educational tour ever since. Right now, though, currently landing as the Dean of Education and Professional Studies at UW-Whitewater. Katy, talk a little bit about being the Dean of Education and Professional Studies. What does all that encompass?
Well, actually, when I started as dean in 2009, we were just called the College of Education. And we do have a very large teacher education program, but we also have quite a few professional studies programs, such as counselor education, speech-language pathology, human performance and recreation, and we also had, at the time, occupational and environmental safety, and we still have military aerospace studies in the college ROTC. So we weren't just teacher education, and the faculty and I had a long talk about why we were called the College of Education, and it came up that they felt they really needed to broaden the name to be more inclusive of all of the degrees that we award.
Wow, that's pretty inclusive. So thinking about your professional preparation and curriculum and instruction, what is it about that particular schooling here at UW-Madison you think prepared you to be the dean, focus on education, but all those other studies as well?
Well, I think one of the things that I learned while I was at UW-Madison was how to think very broadly and how to take in a lot of different viewpoints, how to apply those things to help me bring people together to come to consensus. There was a lot of give and take. I met some amazingly brilliant students and faculty here who helped me really, I guess, broaden my thoughts and helped me really think more deeply about what education was and what we do in a public institution to be able to educate people.
Great. Now you talk about public institution. As the dean of a college of education, when you think about the preparation that you have for your students, being a public institution, does that make a difference in terms of where they go with their schooling, private versus public? Or talk a little bit about that.
Very much so. All of our students do practica like UW-Madison, and all of our students do that in public schools. So we are very committed to partnering with PK-12 education, publicly supported schools. It's not that we have anything against private education, but that's just not what our mission is. It really is to have a strong relationship with the schools that are supported by the people in Wisconsin.
Okay. Well, I read in your bio that you are currently the president of a national organization, Teacher Education Council of State Colleges and Universities. And that represents over 600 teacher ed programs throughout the U.S. In that role, what is the mission of that organization, and what do you do for public education nationally? TextQ,
which is a lot easier to say than that long name, is really the organization that represents teacher education programs in public regional comprehensive universities. So teachers can be trained in private schools, in large research institutions like UW-Madison, historically black colleges and universities. There are many different ways and places where you can get a degree. Our program, or our organization, is really dedicated to those programs that are at state regional comprehensive universities like UW-Whitewater, where more than half of all teachers are trained in the United States. Many of these institutions started out as normal schools like UW-Whitewater and have at their heart a mission to educate teachers and to be, committed to public education.
Okay. So thinking about the state of teacher education today and the state of our schools, in 1996, probably the way they prepared teachers then is different than how we prepare teachers now. What would you say are some of those differences?
Well, I think one of the biggest shifts is the emphasis on accountability and on assessment. Teachers today have to be able to not only teach their students, but to be able to assess their knowledge and really be able to publicly report how well they're doing. There's a bigger emphasis now on teachers being able to really state what they do, how they do it, and I don't know, testing, measurement, evaluation. And the other part of it in the training program now, teachers have to take a variety of exams in order to be able to be a teacher. When I was here at Madison working with our students, I don't think there was a single test that students had to take in order to become licensed. Now teachers have to take a minimum of 3, sometimes 4, depending upon what program they're in.
Huh. Okay. Well, it seems that lately the pressure of being a teacher has really had students think about, is it rewarding? Is it really the career that I want? Because there's so much accountability. I mean, it seems like today anybody thinks they can be a teacher. And with some of the I don't know, the critical view on licensing and what it really does, it starts to look like people think anybody can do it. What can you tell students that are thinking about becoming teachers and dealing with this accountability and the pressure?
Well, it's really hard. Our students get a lot of pressure to not go into education. Their high school teachers are telling them, don't choose teaching as a profession anymore. That's a shift. Their parents are saying, don't go into education. It's not a future for you, for anybody. It's too difficult to be a teacher. You won't make any money. Everybody's against education. So there's a lot of pressure not to go into education. What we're finding, though, is that that drive and passion to be teachers and to be an educator, we still have many students coming to us. Surprisingly, our numbers haven't dropped as much as you would think, given everything that's gone on, particularly in Wisconsin in the last 10 years. Our students are still very committed to going into education, but it's difficult, and we have a very one of the big differences between UW-Whitewater and UW-Madison is our students come to us not always prepared to even be in college. And they are coming oftentimes for a bachelor's degree first and thinking about education somewhere along the line. And our goal is to help them get that bachelor's degree as well as getting a teaching degree.
Great. Well, I think our students are they benefit a lot from the way you talk about the preparation that is happening at UW-Whitewater, and we see a lot of that here at Madison. We do have a lot of students who, you know, helping others and working with kids is their passion, and so it's trying to figure out how to open up that thirst, keep that drive alive. And one area that helps keep that drive alive, it seems, in the millennials, are video games and technology. And so we've had a faculty member that spent a year on leave at the White House to actually provide advice around gaming. Can you talk a little bit about the impact you think gaming and technology has for teacher preparation and for students in the classroom?
I think gaming is very big. You know, the opportunity to use gaming to help teach and the educational purposes for gaming are a huge untapped resource. We now have a video game digital learning emphasis that we're trying to move into an actual major at the university with an emphasis in education. We have we're actually quite connected with UW-Madison folk, and and we've created a digital media lab for our students to be able to learn how to use these, you know, be able to turn their passion for educational gaming into a resource for when they're teachers as well. So
that's great. When you think about equity in education, when you think about achievement gap issues, you know, it's unfortunate that it seems that there is a divide between students that are in districts that are well-resourced and districts that experience poverty. And our kids are facing so much, the current students, with nutrition issues, homelessness, you know, transits. What are some of the issues that you think are the highest right now in the districts that lend itself to the achievement gap? And then how is your program preparing those students and teachers coming out to combat it and try and narrow the gap?
Well, I think getting our students out into the schools so that they can actually see this and have an opportunity to talk about it during their teacher training is very important. We also see the same gap with students who come to UW-Whitewater, depending upon what school they're from, that they're not totally prepared. They're taking a lot of remedial courses, so we're trying to create programs on campus to help students be retained. And in our teacher education program, we found that there were a lot of students who were not even choosing education as a career path because they were afraid of taking those exams that I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
So we've tried to do things. We created a new future teacher program, which is it's a whole, what I call a portfolio of support systems to help students who want to go into education, particularly students in high needs areas that are wanting to go into the STEM fields, but also students of color who want to go into education, who may or may not want to choose education as a career, and to create not only a educational support system but also a social support system for them in the college. It's done a lot to help retain students. We're very proud of the fact that they're graduating in larger numbers now, and it's made an impact on the college.
So in thinking about the preparation that you have for the students, what is some of the success stories that maybe you'd like to share about some of the students that have come through your program, or students that you've run into who are alums of UW-Whitewater over the years?
Well, just last week we had a reporter on campus from the Janesville Gazette who was there, I think, trying to find out what the impact of all of the changes in the state budget would have on education and their thoughts about that, and was kind of digging around trying to find out, you know, why are you still in education when there's all these reasons not to? And one of the questions he asked was, what are you most afraid of? And it was a wonderful response. One of our students said, the thing that I'm most afraid of is that I will be hired by a school district that will not allow me to be as creative as I want to be and to be able to use all the tools that I've been given at UW-Whitewater.
Great.
So for me, those are the reasons why I keep coming back every day. The students are still there. They still have their passion, despite all of the odds and all of the things that are against them.
Well, it's great to have a dean as supportive as you. When I think about our students coming through the education programs and the encouragement that they need. Another area, I'm a parent of two children, a 9th grader and a 7th grader. And as a parent, we often talk about the lack of parent engagement. What role would you say parents have in supporting their students and connecting with their teachers? What advice would you provide us?
Well, I think parents need to be very involved. They need to find out what's going on in the classroom, ask questions, get to know the teacher, find out what's going on in the curriculum, find out what the students are learning. Again, try to become involved. I know some parents have more time that they can actually spend in the schools, others cannot. But even if you can't be there, get the students and your children to talk to you about what's happening in the school. Bring that back into the house and have the conversations about what's going on so the students know that you value what they're doing and the education that they're getting.
Wow. I'm going to make sure I make a note of that right after this conversation, because I just think the support that we can provide our kids and celebrate our teachers really makes a big difference. So when we started, again, I talked about you finishing in 1996 and, you know, the opportunity to be nominated and receive a Distinguished Alumni Award really speaks to the work that you've done over the years. Just share with us and our viewers a little bit about that work and what you're proudest of.
Well, when I was here at UW-Madison, I had no idea that I'd end up in this seat as being a dean. I didn't even really know about UW-Whitewater. I knew that there was a school. I'd never set foot on campus, even though I was, you know, less than 50 miles away. So for me, coming back and working there and finding out that there's a whole world of education that I became a part of. I was very excited to be supported in my own career goals. I owe a debt of gratitude to UW-Whitewater as well for supporting me all these years. I think one of the things I'm proud of is how our college, even though it's very, very large, has maintained its nimbleness in being able to respond to all of these changes. We've had so many new requirements from the State Department of Public Instruction. The faculty's willingness to be able to change their curriculum, become involved, stay excited, not get burnt out. I mean, we spend a lot of time trying to figure out how do we jump over the hurdles that are put before us. So I'm very proud of the faculty, the role that I've been able to play in helping to shape and hire new people that have amazing research agendas and talent, and that's been very exciting. So I can't really say any one thing, but it's been a wonderful journey so far.
Great. And thinking about that journey, you come into contact with other deans of education, and especially being a part of a UW system with, as you said, 50 miles away, Whitewater from UW-Madison, and then Milwaukee close by. How do deans of education connect throughout the year and to help bolster the teacher education career? How do you all connect?
Well, that's another thing that's changed a great deal in the past 5 years. I can see when I started as dean, we had the Wisconsin Association for Colleges of Teacher Education, which brings together all of the public and private institutions a couple times a year to talk about education, teacher education. We bring in DPI officials. One of the things that happened, though, when Act 10 was passed is we became very politicized. We began to reach out to each other. We created a listserv. We started connecting. And then the public institutions through Wisconsin started having monthly telephone calls. We had never been that connected before, and I can see that that's really helped. So when we see that there's something going on at the state legislature, we're able to talk to each other, pick up the phone. So I think we're a lot closer as a group, and we're able to respond as one voice, because it's a little bit easier for us to, I should say it's a little harder it's a little harder to dismantle what it is we have to say when you have everybody speaking together. So that's been a good thing.
So I'd like to thank you again for being here today. I mean, to have a Distinguished Alumni Award winner and a dean is pretty incredible. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. And I want to thank you, our video producers, and our viewers for tuning in to this episode of SoE TV, that's School of Education TV. Take care.